It's 1:42 a.m. There's an orange glow coming from the bathroom under the door. My wife is in there. The fan's humming. The sink's been running for 20 minutes, and she thinks I'm asleep. But I'm lying in bed, gripping my phone so tightly the screen keeps dimming from my thumb pressure. I haven't blinked in 5 minutes. I'm staring at a screenshot I just airdropped to myself from our shared iPad, because apparently, she forgot it syncs. A text from my sister-in-law. Better to deal with it myself than with him in bed grinning squinting face. And then my wife's reply. He's amazing though smirking face. My stomach turned so hard I almost passed out. Not because of the message, but because of the timestamp. It was sent while I was making them both breakfast downstairs. Literal pancakes. From scratch. I even used almond milk because my wife's trying to cut dairy again. I thought they were laughing at a video. Nope. They were laughing at me. And suddenly, everything started falling into place. The late-night sister bonding sessions. The giggles behind locked doors. The time I came home early and found them sprawled on the couch. Hair messy, cheeks flushed, claiming they were doing face masks, but the room smelled like perfume and wine. I sat there in the dark like a fool while she pretended we were still in some functioning marriage. She kissed me goodnight, whispered, "You're my favorite person," then tiptoed back to the bathroom with her phone in hand like I wouldn't notice. But here's the worst part, and I'm not proud of it. I'm still in love with her. And I don't know if I'm more heartbroken over the betrayal or the fact that she shared that part of herself with Janie, her sister, the same woman who cried on our couch for 3 nights after her last breakup, while I refilled her wine and told her she deserved better. Apparently, better was my wife. So now I'm lying here, phone glowing, heart racing, listening to the sound of water trickling and betrayal echoing in my head, and wondering, do I confront her? Do I wait? Or do I finally stop being the doormat everyone thinks I don't know I am? I always thought betrayal would come with lipstick stains or a slammed door. Something loud, something obvious. But in my case, it came wrapped in giggles between sisters, in quiet late-night texts, in glances that lasted 1 second too long. It came with girls' night in and wine glasses that disappeared from the dishwasher way too fast. It came with whispered jokes I wasn't meant to hear. And it kept coming. That night, I didn't sleep. I watched the bathroom light cut across the hallway carpet like a blade. I heard the water stop, the fan hum, the soft creak of the door opening. She tiptoed back into bed and laid down like nothing happened, her phone still glowing under the covers. I pretended to turn over in my sleep, just so she'd think I hadn't noticed. The next morning, I made coffee. She walked in wearing my shirt, something she hadn't done in months, and kissed me on the cheek like she still meant it. I stood there, stirring sugar into a cup for a woman who joked about avoiding me in bed because her sister apparently does it better. "Janie's staying one more night," she said casually, taking a sip. "She's been feeling anxious." I nodded. Right. Anxiety. Her face didn't flinch. No reaction. That's when I realized she was way better at this than I thought. Later that day, I checked the iPad again. I hadn't told her I figured out the sync. I played dumb, and it was working. Messages came in while she was upstairs with Janie watching Netflix, or at least pretending to. One message stood out. "He made pancakes again, faced with tears of joy. I swear he's trying to win husband of the year. He's sweet, but so boring." Boring. That word stayed with me the rest of the afternoon like a mosquito bite I couldn't scratch. I vacuumed. I mowed the lawn. I even cleaned the baseboards just to feel like I had some control. But it didn't help. That evening, I decided to test something. I invited Janie to stay for dinner. Mara hesitated. Just for a second. But it was there. "She's probably tired," she said. "Then she can eat and rest. You always say food helps her relax." She gave me a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Sure. Yeah, okay." Janie came down an hour later wearing one of my hoodies again. She smiled at me. Too wide. Too calm. We sat around the table eating pasta. They laughed. I asked Janie about her breakup just to push the conversation somewhere awkward. She shrugged and said, "Oh, I'm not thinking about that guy anymore." Mara choked slightly on her wine. And that's when I knew. Janie wasn't recovering from heartbreak. She was celebrating something. After dinner, I told them I was going to bed early. Said I had a headache. Mara offered to bring me tea later. I nodded and left the room. But I didn't go to sleep. I left the bedroom door open just a crack and waited in the dark. At 11:43 p.m., I heard soft footsteps. Laughter. 2 sets. The guest room door closed and didn't open again until nearly 2 a.m. When Mara crawled back into bed next to me, her hair was damp again. No explanation. No tea. She thought I was asleep. I wasn't. But now, I was done pretending. By the next morning, something inside me had shifted. Not in a dramatic, movie scene kind of way. No yelling, no slamming doors, no tearing up photos. Just a dull, electric hum in my chest that said, "You're not crazy. You were right. They're doing this right under your nose. And somehow, they still think you're too blind, or too pathetic, to see it. Fine. Let them think that. I wasn't looking for proof anymore. I was building a case. So I became what they thought I'd never be, observant. I started small. Changed the password on the home Wi-Fi. It logged everyone out. 2 hours later, I heard Mara pacing upstairs, muttering something about no signal. Janie called it weird. I played dumb. Maybe the modem needs a reset. I gave them the guest password. The one that didn't sync with the smart home cameras. See, what they didn't know, what no one knew, was that during COVID, I installed motion-activated security cams in the hallway and the back entrance. Mara didn't care. She never noticed. But I'd turned off notifications after the first few weeks and forgot about them myself. Until now. I reactivated them. I waited. That Thursday, I pretended to be gone for the night. Told them I had a late presentation and might crash at a coworker's place. Mara gave me a lazy thumbs up and didn't even ask who I was staying with. She didn't care. She was already gone. I parked 4 blocks down and walked home in the dark, heart pounding like a drum in my throat. It was almost midnight when I slipped into the backyard, phone in hand, silent mode on. The back window was cracked open. I could hear them laughing. But it wasn't the kind of laughter that made me jealous. It was the kind that made me sick. Janie said something like, "He actually believes the headache story?" Mara replied, "Please. He's just happy I'm not snapping at him anymore." They laughed harder. I left. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even record it. I didn't need to. Because when I got back to my car, I had motion alerts from earlier that night. I opened the app. Fast-forwarded. At 9:17 p.m., Mara walked into the guest room. At 9:29 p.m., Janie followed her. At 11:56 p.m., they came out, together, laughing, wearing nothing but robes. It wasn't just an affair. It was a joke to them. A private, disgusting comedy show, and I was the punchline. And you know what the worst part was? I still loved her. I still looked at that footage and thought about our wedding. About how she cried during our vows. About how she said I made her feel safe. Apparently, safe just meant stupid and predictable. So I made a decision. Not to confront her. Not to leave. Not yet. No. First, I wanted them both to feel exactly what I'd been feeling for weeks. Confused. Exposed. Powerless. And it started with a single message. Sent from a new number. To both their phones at once. He may be boring, but he's not blind. When I hit send on that message, I didn't expect immediate panic. I expected confusion. And that's exactly what I got. 2 minutes later, I heard footsteps upstairs, fast ones. Then muffled voices. Not raised. Not yelling. Just panicked whispers. I imagined them huddled over their phones like teenagers who just got caught sneaking out. The thrill of the secret, replaced by the cold weight of exposure. They didn't know it was me. That was the best part. I had used a burner number from an app, one that couldn't be traced. I'd also sent it from the parking lot of a grocery store, just in case Mara ever got suspicious enough to check my GPS history. I know, it sounds insane, but when your own wife betrays you with her sister and laughs about it over margaritas, your sanity gets creative. They didn't come downstairs that night. I waited in the kitchen pretending to scroll through emails. The silence from above felt like a live wire, stretching tighter every minute. When Mara finally did come down the next morning, her face was pale. She kissed me on the cheek like she always did, but this time it felt robotic, mechanical. Her eyes searched my face like she was trying to detect a crack, some clue that I knew. I smiled, made her coffee, even offered her almond milk. She didn't drink it. I went to work like nothing had happened, but the whole day I couldn't stop thinking about how I wanted to make them squirm. I wasn't interested in revenge porn or broadcasting them to the world. That's not what this was. I didn't want to ruin their lives. I wanted to own the ending of mine. You want a show? Fine. I'll write the final act. So I started laying the groundwork. Quietly, I backed up everything from the iPad to a flash drive and stored it in my work locker. I took screenshots of every message, every timestamp. I even kept the motion footage, encrypted, backed up twice. Not to humiliate them, but to protect myself, just in case one of them tried to flip the story. The next step? I started therapy. I know that might sound out of place, but I needed to hear someone else say I wasn't crazy. My therapist, Dr. Langston, was the first person I told the entire truth to. The iPad, the footage, the messages. She just sat there for a long time after I finished and said, "So, what's your plan?" I told her the truth. I want to leave, but not until she feels what I felt. I want her to doubt everything, the same way I did. That weekend, I invited Mara and Janie out for dinner, my treat. I said it was to celebrate Janie getting a new remote job, something they had mentioned offhand weeks ago. They both looked shocked, but agreed. At the restaurant, I brought up old memories, told stories about our first dates, made them both laugh. I looked Mara straight in the eye and said, "You've always been my home, even when things felt a little off lately." She blinked fast and reached for her wine glass. Janie looked like she wanted to be anywhere else. And then, I handed them each a small white envelope. Light, harmless. Inside was a printed screenshot. Just one. The last message they ever sent each other on that iPad. "Don't worry. He'll never know." Mara's face drained. Janie looked like she'd been slapped. I leaned back and smiled. I know. Neither of them said a word. I stood up, paid the bill in cash, and left them sitting there in the booth like statues. It wasn't revenge. It was the prologue to the ending they wrote for me. I didn't go home after that dinner. I didn't even look back at the restaurant window as I walked away. I just kept moving. For the first time in weeks, my legs didn't feel like cement. I drove across town and checked into a hotel under a different name. No suitcase, no toothbrush, just my wallet, my backup drive, and a single text drafted but not sent yet. The room was quiet, too quiet. I didn't turn on the TV. I sat there for hours in that stiff hotel chair, going over everything. Every laugh I brushed off. Every little sister trip I encouraged. Every stupid moment I gave them the benefit of the doubt because I didn't want to seem paranoid. Because I wanted to believe Mara was still the woman I married. She wasn't. But that was okay. Because I wasn't the same man anymore either. The next morning, I called my boss. Told him I needed a short leave of absence. Nothing dramatic. Family matters. He agreed without hesitation. I was a model employee. Always on time. Always reliable. Boring, even. That word again. Good. Let them think I'm boring. Let them underestimate me. That's what made all of this work. I rented a short-term place under a different name. A studio above a bakery downtown. It smelled like vanilla and heat. I paid 3 months up front. No contact. No explanations. Then, I scheduled the transfer. See, what Mara didn't know, what Janie could have never guessed, is that I'd been quietly saving money in a separate account for nearly 2 years. Not because I expected betrayal, but because I'd always feared emergencies. I just never imagined this kind. I moved $48,000 out of our joint savings that Friday morning. Not all of it. Just enough to make a point. I left her a polite note inside our shared Google Drive titled, "For Mara. Read first." It read, "You said I was boring. You said I'd never know. I know. You also said I'd never leave. You were wrong. Tell your sister I hope she enjoys wearing my hoodies. I'm sure that'll get awkward eventually." I sent it. Then blocked her. Blocked Janie. Blocked her parents. Blocked her friends. I even shut down my Facebook account and created a new email address. And then silence. 2 hours passed. Then 4. Then 12. Then came the explosion. 37 missed calls. 9 voicemails. I didn't listen to any of them. The texts came in rapid fire. At first, confusion. Then panic. Then rage. I didn't read all of them, but one stuck out. "Where are you? You're being cruel. This isn't fair." Cruel? No, Mara. Cruel was laughing with your sister about how boring I was while I folded your laundry. Cruel was looking me in the eye and telling me you loved me after crawling out of bed with her. Cruel was pretending I didn't matter, until I finally stopped showing up. They thought they were running the game, but I flipped the board, and I wasn't done yet. The thing no one tells you about disappearing is that it's not just about leaving. It's about controlling what's left behind. Every text you don't reply to, every account you deactivate, every silence you maintain while they scream into the void for answers. It's not revenge. It's precision. It's emotional architecture. And I built mine brick by quiet brick. By the time Mara realized I wasn't coming back, not in a day, not in a week, Her texts had shifted tone again. Less fury, more desperation. She was unraveling, and it was happening exactly the way she'd slowly unraveled me. But the difference was, I had the decency to do it in private. She made mine a performance, staged in our home, with her sister as co-star. What she didn't know, and this was the best part, was that I'd already been to the lawyer. A week before I sent that first message, before the restaurant confrontation, I'd quietly filed the initial paperwork. No-fault divorce. Irreconcilable differences. Simple, efficient. But I wasn't just after the split. I wanted her to feel the consequences, to watch it unfold and realize it had been set in motion long before she saw it coming. I knew her weak spots. She needed control. She needed an audience. She needed to be the one who leaves, who wins, who holds the power. So I did the opposite. I took away her narrative. No confrontation. No accusations. Just quiet exits and locked doors. And the more I gave her nothing, the more it ate at her. She emailed me through her work account when she couldn't reach me any other way. That's how I knew it was bad. Mara never mixed personal life with her career image. Her email was full of dramatic lines like, "I can't fix this if you won't talk to me. And this is humiliating." The irony nearly made me laugh out loud. Meanwhile, Janie went full ghost. She vanished from social media entirely. Maybe Mara blamed her. Maybe they turned on each other like snakes once the party was over. I didn't care. They made their bed. Literally. Let them try sleeping in it now. A week later, I sent one final message. Not to Mara, not to Janie, but to her parents. A short, polite email. Just wanted to let you know I'm safe. I'll be filing for divorce. Out of respect, I'm not sharing the reasons publicly. I trust Mara will decide what version of the story to tell you. I've chosen not to correct it. That was the only moment I felt something close to satisfaction. Because I knew Mara. I knew how badly she needed to control the narrative. And now? She'd have to either lie to her own parents or tell them the truth. Both would hurt her in different ways. Both would chip away at the version of herself she had carefully curated over years. And still, I stayed silent. Let her squirm in the uncertainty. Let her stare at empty inboxes and ask herself how the boring husband had outmaneuvered her. Because the truth is, I was never boring. I was loyal. I was kind. And I was paying attention. She just never thought that part mattered. The strange thing about leaving someone who thought you'd never go is that their panic doesn't hit all at once. It comes in waves. I watched Mara's come from a distance, far enough to stay safe, close enough to understand the shape of the damage. The first wave was confusion. She didn't know what I knew or how I found out. She didn't know when it started cracking or which lie did it. She didn't know how long I'd planned my exit. And that uncertainty was torture for her. Good. It was oxygen for me. The second wave was anger. A month into my disappearance, she sent a message to my new number, the one she wasn't supposed to have. "I deserve an explanation," she wrote. I didn't respond. Because she wasn't looking for an explanation. She was looking for control. The third wave, though, that one I didn't expect. She tried to rewrite me. I found out through a mutual friend, someone I barely stayed in touch with, but who knew enough to reach out. He messaged me on Instagram. "Hey man, sorry about everything. Didn't know you were, cheating on her. Hope you're okay." I almost dropped my phone. So that was her story. That I cheated. That I abandoned her. That I blindsided her with divorce papers while she was trying to save the marriage. Brilliant, really. Best defense is a good offense. She was painting me as the villain so fast her brush probably caught fire. But here's what she didn't realize. Lies spread fast, but the truth spreads quietly. And quietly is where I lived now. I didn't fight the story. I didn't argue. I didn't send proof. I didn't expose her. I just said, "I appreciate the concern. I'm fine. Hope you're well," and left it at that. Because I didn't need to convince anyone. I wasn't living my life for witnesses anymore. Meanwhile, her world kept shrinking. She and Janie weren't speaking anymore. Not since the night I left. My friend told me there was some kind of falling out, something loud, ugly, and final. Maybe Mara blamed her for the affair. Maybe Janie blamed Mara for losing everything. Either way, their bond evaporated the second I stepped out of the frame. But the real twist came 2 weeks ago. Mara emailed me again. Longest email I've ever seen. Paragraphs explaining how she never meant for things to go that far, how she felt emotionally abandoned, how Janie manipulated her during a vulnerable time. There was even a paragraph where she blamed stress, blamed work, blamed grief over her grandmother's death. She blamed everything except herself. And then, here's the punchline. She asked if we could reset. Reset? Like a router. I read the whole email in one breath, then sat back in my little studio above the bakery, listening to the ovens rumbling below me and the smell of fresh dough drifting up through the vents. Funny how peace feels nothing like you expect. It's heavier. It sits on your chest, but in a good way, like a blanket, not a burden. That night, I wrote my response in my notes app. I didn't send it yet. I wanted to make sure it wasn't driven by anger or sadness or fear. I wanted it clean. This is what I wrote. You didn't lose me because you slept with your sister. You lost me because you laughed about it. You lost me because you made me the joke in my own marriage. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not hurt. But I'll never be yours again. I'll send it. But not yet. I sent the message the next morning. No dramatic subject line. No punctuation games. Just a simple reply in plain text, the same way I used to send her grocery lists and dinner reminders when life was still ordinary. I didn't expect a response. And this time, I didn't care if she screamed, sobbed, or ghosted. The point of closure isn't getting the last word. It's realizing you no longer need one. That was the morning I started unpacking in my new apartment. Not a temporary rental. A real place. Lease signed in my name only. Bright kitchen. One bedroom. A coffee shop across the street where no one knew me as Mara's husband. I wasn't running anymore. I was arriving. The best part? I started laughing again. Real, ugly, chest-shaking laughter. It hit me while I was building a cheap bookshelf and accidentally snapped the screwdriver in half. I sat there on the floor with splinters and screws everywhere, laughing like someone who had finally run out of tears. My therapist says grief doesn't always feel like grief. Sometimes it feels like silence. Sometimes it feels like not needing to explain yourself anymore. Sometimes it feels like walking past the almond milk in the grocery store and realizing you don't have to buy it if you don't want to. Mara's chapter in my life is over. So is Janie's. I don't think about them with rage now. I think about them the way you think about a movie that tricked you with a good trailer, like, wow, I really thought that was going somewhere. But now I'm writing something better. For me, I joined a weekend hiking group. I started cooking meals with ingredients I like. I finally got that dog I always wanted. His name's Milo. He eats my socks, and he somehow understands when I've had a long day. I even met someone recently. No labels, just quiet talks and matching smiles. But it feels real. It feels slow. It feels safe. The way I used to believe love should feel. And most of all, I'm not boring. I'm steady. I'm kind. I'm free. So to anyone listening, anyone still stuck in the fog, wondering if they're imagining the lies, second-guessing their gut, trying to fix what they didn't break, please hear me. You're not crazy. You're not too sensitive. And you're absolutely not boring. You're just giving your heart to the wrong person. And that ends the moment you decide it does. I'm Curtis. I was betrayed by my wife and her sister. But I got out. And I've never been more alive.